Hey there, it's Laura here from MakingCardsIsFun.com, and today I'm very honored and excited to be guest designing for Sunny Studio Stamps. In this video, I'll be showcasing two stamp sets from Sunny Studio's Autumn 2017 release, including the adorable Happy-Owl-o-Ween stamp set and the Pretty Pumpkin set. So let's get started with my card. So today I'll be creating my own pattern paper using the Pretty Pumpkin stamp set from Sunny Studio Stamps. And whenever I use a layered stamp set, I like to start out with the most solid layer to stamp the design. So I am inking up my first layer with the lightest color, which is Vanilla Frosted Cupcake ink from the Ton. In this video, I'm using ink from the Ton, but you can use whatever ink you have on hand. I recommend just trying out different colors a bit, figure out which ones work really well to layer together, and then I am sure that you'll find a combination to stamp these pretty pumpkins. So then I am stamping my second layer using Beach Blondie ink. So this is my mid-tone color. And then I am stamping my final layer using the darkest color of ink. In this case, that color is called Amber Citrine ink from the Ton. Okay, so now I finished stamping the pumpkin. It's time to stamp the stem. So I'm also starting out with the most solid layer, and then I am inking that up with my lightest color, which is Soft Garden ink from the Ton in this case. And then I am going to stamp the second layer with my darkest shade of green, and that one is called Bright Fern ink from the Ton as well. So here you can see that I am using the Misti tool to line up these stamps, but feel free to just use an acrylic block or Stamp-A-Magic or a Fisker stamp press. Just use whatever works for you. Next, I'm going to be stamping some orange pumpkins as well, and I'm going to be using 3 shades of orange for that. My lightest color is called Peach Blossom from the Ton, and I am using Coraline ink for my second layer. And then finally, I am going to use Spiced Chai ink from the Ton to stamp the final layer. So I'll be stamping a full panel with these pumpkins, so I'll be creating my own pattern paper, and it probably took me about 30 minutes to stamp this design, which is a long time, but I think it's worth it because it's just so pretty and stamping is fun, so why not just do it? So I also showed you that I stamped some parts with a regular acrylic block just to show you that an acrylic block works great as well. So next I'm stamping the owl from the Happy-Owl-o-Ween stamp set from Sunny Studio Stamps, and I wanted to stamp the bee costume, so I had to mask off those feathers, and I'm doing that with some washi tape, and then I just ink up my stamp like I would do every time. And then I carefully peel off that washi tape with my tweezers, and I'm making sure not to mess it up. And then I can just easily stamp the owl and you won't even see those feathers. So that's just a really easy technique to mask off some pieces of an image that you don't want to stamp. Then I'm stamping the bee costume from that owl, and that matches perfectly with the shape. And then it's time to color these images. So for the owl, I'm using some shades of brown. I am starting out with my darkest color, which is E27, and then I'm blending that out with my mid-tone, which is E57, and then finally I am blending everything together with the E55 color. And I like to go back in with these markers until I'm completely satisfied with my colored image. So here I'm showing the same technique again, this time for the hat of the flower, of the owl I mean, not a flower obviously. So I'm using the same shades, so I'm using E27, E57, and E55, and these 3 colors just work really well together, and it was really easy to color this owl because these colors just blend so easily together. So I definitely recommend this combination if you're looking for some brown fur or just some brown colors. So here you can see that I'm going back in with those markers a second time just to do some more blending and to kind of intensify those colors. So you can go back in as many times as you would like to. Then for the fur around those eyes, I am using some lighter shades of brown. I am using E42 as my highlight, and then I am using E55 to add the shading. This time I used my lightest color first and then used the darkest color because I just wanted to switch it up a little bit. So sometimes I like to start with my darkest color and sometimes I like to start with my lightest color. It's just a little bit of trial and error. Just use or do the technique that works best for you. Then for the beak and the owl's feet, I'm using some oranges. I used a YR18 and a YR15. And then for the bee costume, I'm using a Y19 and a Y13 to add my highlight. So I'm just going back in with those two colors to intensify that a little bit. And then next I'll be coloring the black stripes of my bee. And I actually don't have black Copic markers, so instead I'm going to use my darkest gray. And the darkest gray that I have is the N6 tone. So I'm just going to repeat this step about 4 times to really intensify that gray and just to make it look like a black. So a black Copic marker is definitely on my wish list. Then it's time to color the pumpkin, and I had the most fun coloring this pumpkin because I just really loved working with these 3 particular shades of orange. I am using YR18 first to add my shading, and then I blend that out with a YR16, and then finally I am using YR21 as my highlight. And as you can see, I am using this flicking or feathering motion with my brush, which makes it really easy to add some realistic and really cool shading or dimension to this pumpkin. It also looks really good as well on critters, but I haven't really mastered the technique just yet. But this pumpkin image was really easy to practice it some more. So I think I did a pretty good job coloring the pumpkin, even though I say so myself. And then for the stem of the pumpkin, I'm using some green shades. I used YG17 and YG23 to add the highlight. So after I finished coloring, it's time to do some die cutting. I used the coordinating dies to die cut my cute critters and to die cut the pumpkin. And then I'm also going to die cut a circle out of this pattern paper. And I die cut some more circles. I actually die cut 4 circles out of black cardstock, orange, and yellow cardstock, and I also die cut a vellum circle. So I'm just going to layer everything together, and then I will end up with a really nice and thick circle that will give me some extra dimension. So I adhered the pumpkin piece on top of it, and then I am just positioning that. And then finally, here you can see those colors. So when you tilt the card a little bit, you will see those 3 colors, which I think is just a really nice touch to a handmade card. And then finally, I'm adhering the vellum circle. I just adhered that with my ATG from Scotch, and you won't really see the adhesive since I'm covering that up with those owl images. I'm adhering my owls with some foam adhesive, and I used Tombow Mono Multi Glue to adhere the headband for the bee costume and to adhere the wings. Okay, so now it's time to create a sentiment for this card. So I'm prepping some black cardstock with some kitchen flour, and that's just to remove the static cling on this piece of paper. You can use a Martha Stewart powder tool or a powder bag or embossing buddy, I think it's called. I just like to use regular kitchen flour. I stamped a sentiment from the Happy-Owl-o-Ween stamp set from Sunny Studio with some Wow clear and sticky ink, and then I sprinkled on the opaque bright white embossing powder from Wow, and then I'm just heat setting it with my heat tool. So finally, it's time to finish off this card with some shimmer and sparkle and shine and glitter, because I just love that so much. I'm adhering a couple of sequins here and there, and I'm using my Glossy Accents and my EK Success tweezers for that. And then I'm also going to add some shimmer to a couple of elements of these images with my clear Wing of Stella glitter pen. And then finally, I'm adding a tiny little bit more dimension with Glossy Accents. I'm adding that to the owl's beaks and to the stripes of the bee costume. So that finishes up my card. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye bye.